Hi folks, be with you in a second. Okay, that's Facebook on board. Afternoon folks, as you can see I'm on my own there. Davies no feeling that great, so this one will be done in the style of Indie Truck Davy. So it's Indie Truck Davy out the truck at home in his office in Salford, North Lanarkshire, where it's a beautiful morning, beautiful afternoon, but bloody cold at just 1 degree. And the frost isn't clear till last night. Oh, chilly. I hear there's over 160 schools in the North East closed due to snow. Huh? Hi, Jane. I hear you've got snow up there. Well, anyway, in Aberdeenshire and across the Highlands, apparently, in Nancy, we'll get 160 schools shut because of snow. There you go. Anyway, been a busy week in news. Now, I wasn't preparing to do the day's show on my own, so I'll just quickly rattle down a few subjects that I want to cover, and then we'll see what we get in the comments as well. Okay. So this is the two Davies on the 15th of the 1st, 2024, minus a Davy. We're going to start calling them sick note. That's what we're going to start calling them, folks. We're going to start calling them sick note. John, you catch me live. You're cold open. Bloody cold everywhere today. Anyway, let's have a look at things that happened since we last broadcast on Thursday. So, with the SNP launch of their election campaign, Mr. Yousaf gives us all a speech to tell us, independent supporters that is, if you're thinking about voting Labour, don't bother. The polling's showing they've got it in the bag down that road. Some of that polling's pretty iffy, actually. We'll get to that. They've got it in the bag down that road. If you want independence, vote SNP. Now, what Mr. Yousaf is pointing out is that actually Labour don't need a Scottish seat at all, contrary to what the BBC are telling us. We'll get a wee bit more about what the BBC tell us when we get Stephen Flynn, right, on Politics on Sunday, I think it is, or Scotland on Sunday. Absolutely hilarious stuff. But anyway, so Mr. Yousaf is encouraging all independent supporters to vote SNP. Well, in actual, we'll get the Greens saying the same thing. We'll get Anna Sarwar out there begging Indie supporters to vote Labour. So, the election campaign is underway, folks. Well underway. And the dirty stuff started. Really started. I mean, some of the nonsense in the press, like earlier this week, apparently Glen Sannock's not getting its battery. It's too expensive. It's going to run on diesel. Absolutely no idea. And apparently a ferry that get contracted out to Turkey will be on time and ready to go to service in March. It's on sea trials now. That's the sort of crap we're getting on BBC Scotland. Absolute rubbish. Talking about BBC Scotland, Stephen Flynn appeared on BBC Scotland, as I just said. Now, he was there to talk about the escalation of the situation in the Red Sea with the UK and the US striking Houthi positions in Yemen. We'll get into that in a sec, a wee bit more into that now. Thanks, Dexter. Anyway, Mr. Flynn tells us all precarious situation and that Parliament should be called and this should have been debated. He also says that governments need a bit of flexibility to react. But in this particular case, the decision was allegedly made on Tuesday for the strike on Thursday. So there was time to tell Parliament, there was time on Friday to recall the Parliament could be recalled on Friday to discuss what they'd done on Thursday night. Got a wee bit more into that. And of course, they talked about the fact that the devolved nations weren't even informed. We weren't informed. What I have seen in social media is absolute outrage at the UK and the US striking at the poorest people in the world who are trying to stick up for the most oppressed people in the world. It was also sickening to see Starmer throw away the last of his principles as a human rights lawyer and come out in support of striking the poorest people in the world who are demanding that the most oppressed people in the world stop being slaughtered. Is it just me, or are we living in some sick parody here? Anyway, in the same interview, the BBC reporter tells Stephen Flynn that Labour are going to take half Scotland's seats, half the seats in Scotland. The game's a bogey. Pack up. Westminster says you can't have independence. The Supreme Court says you can't have independence. Pack your bags, shut your party down, send your supporters home. I was watching it aghast. Absolutely aghast. So that's it, folks. We've been told. Supreme Court says we can't have a referendum. Westminster says we can't have our independence. Scotland's democracy will be forever denied. Pack your bags. Game's a bogey. So there you go, folks. It's over. Don't even bother voting in the next election, apparently. But you definitely don't bother voting SNP. Even though he points out in the interview the support for independence is on the rise, and we know that the last reasonably conducted poll, which was polled on today's demographics, as opposed to the demographics of 2014, which all the major polling companies, apart from opinion, are using. Nuts. Thanks, John. Very, very generous of you, my friend. So, there you go, folks. It's over. The BBC have told us the game's a bogey. The great British establishment has said no. Hi, Davy. So there you go, folks. It's all over. And of course, Mr. Flynn tells them, well, if people want to keep the pressure on, vote SNP. I want a wee bit more than that for these politicians. I want them to grow up here. It's time to start telling these people to fuck off. I mean, although our democracy is being denied, we are not in the same sort of situation as the people in Gaza. We're in no fear of the people of England striking against us because their imperial masters in Westminster tell me. The people in England right now are so pissed off with Westminster, they're ready to get their torches out and their pitchforks. Thanks, Davey. Honestly, they're ready to get their torches and their pitchforks out. How do you think they feel? Can't afford to feed the fucking hungry. But they've just pledged another 2.5 billion to Ukraine. By the way, that money's not going to Ukraine. It's going to arms companies here in the UK. So basically, the Tories are bunging their pals in the arms industry. Then the arms will go to Ukraine. But here they are firing up £300,000 missiles a pop at the poorest people in the world for storing up for the most oppressed people in the world. You couldn't make it up. You really couldn't. It's astonishing. As I say, it's sickening and all. I had a wee rant on Saturday about this. Starmer throwing the last of his principles under a bus. No, that bugger ever hid any anyway. Thanks, brothers. And that also comes out in the same interview that Mr. Starmer had thrown his last principles under a bus. Right, so there you go, folks. Apparently, we're to get back in our box and shut up, Jock. It's official. We were told on Sunday in the BBC. No point. You're wasting your time. We'll fucking see about that. And all the while, the support for independence is going up. These people are in for a shock come this general election. Because as Mr. Yusuf pointed out, get rid of Tories, get rid of Labour. That keeps the pressure on. Right, what else did we have during the week here? Oh, both crackery, orange douchey with the post office and the postmasters. Thanks, Stephen. Orange doucheys with the post office and the postmasters. And it comes to light that the post office has got tax relief for compensating these people. 957 million or something like that tax relief. Nearly £1 billion, but they're not paid it out. So UK government's paying it out. It's the Treasury because they own the post office. Anyway, you can tell me all that money that they stole to the postmasters to be recompensed for money that was never missing in the first place. Maybe have a look at that and see how much tax they owe on that. So apparently, the post office, which belongs to the broken, failed Westminster establishment, is on the verge of bankruptcy. You couldn't make it up. A government agency on the verge of bankruptcy. Unbelievable. Still looking at the bright side, there's plenty of money for war. Anyway, what else we got? Oh aye, let's get back to the Red Sea. Apparently, the reason why the UK and the US is striking against the Yemens and the Houthis is to protect commerce. It's to protect commerce. Can these big fucking shipping industries not afford to hire their own security? Since when did the public purse cough up millions and billions of quid to look after commerce? And apparently, as well as the money they're spending protecting commerce, it could have an inflationary effect. The fact that the shipping companies are not going through the Red Sea and up through the Suez Canal or having to go around, apparently may well have an effect on inflation. Throw in the checks that are coming in at the end of this month, supposedly, on food substances coming in for Europe. It'll be a rough start of the year, folks. Okay. On another SNP bad story. Apparently cuts to the tree planting budget means we might make our climate obligations. Cuts to the tree planting budget. Of course, there's cuts to all the budgets. All the budgets. Might take a wee bit longer to forest. But hey, trees tend to drop their own seeds. If we have to cut the forestry allowance for a short time in order to feed the people, then that's what he did. Thanks, Jodie. Because that's exactly what's happening here. Everything that's been cut everywhere is actually going to mitigate the worst of the crap that's happening here. I mean, the Scottish government in the last 14 years has paid out 701 million quid to support low-paid families. And that's out with the new Scottish Child Fund benefit. That's out with mitigating the bedroom tax. It's not counting the baby box. So 701 million to keep the poorest people in Scotland out of poverty. Unbelievable. Right, so apparently we're not going to be planting enough trees. We'll worry about that in a couple of years' time, eh? That's what everybody else is doing when it comes to climate change. Everybody's kicking it into the long grass. Unfortunately, here in Scotland, we don't want to kick it into the long grass. We're being forced to. Their budgets are being cut. Oh, you can't blame Westminster. You can't blame Westminster. I don't know where these people get this piss fee. Well, are they actually the BBC convincing them that the Scottish Parliament has much more power than what it has? The one thing the press here in Scotland does is convince the people here in Scotland that everything in Scotland are run by Holyrood. I keep having to point out it's fucking no. The four major competencies, even though they're big, wide competencies, along that road: education, health, infrastructure, and environment. That's it. It would appear most of the stupid fuckers here in Scotland don't understand that that is it. They're white briefs, but that's all there is to it. When you take in the environment, that covers agriculture and all that sort of thing. Education, that goes for child minding, all the way up to university and beyond. You know, mental. What else we got? This one's a good story. Scotland's economy is faring far better than other areas across the UK, according to the latest Purchasing Managers Index, although the economy is still in contraction. Okay, Scotland was the best performing on the employment front as well, among the 4 nations and 8 regions. And, well, 3 nations and 8 regions in England. The decline in output in Scotland in the private sector economy slowed sharply last month. So basically we're not shrinking as fast as everywhere else. The decline in output in Scotland, as I say, it slowed last month. But in the latest Royal Bank of Scotland Purchasing Managers Index, the output index for Scotland rose from 47.1 in November to 49.4 in December. Once it's seasonally adjusted, it's still just below the 50% level deemed to separate expansion from contraction. So we're about 0.60 away from being in an economy that's growing. Anyway, the latest readings indicate a sharp fall in activity in 4 months, but that's been right across these islands. And a return to growth by the service sector in Scotland last month, even though only marginally. And with manufacturing output, things here in Scotland aren't as bad as in the rest of the UK. The Bank of Scotland also, the Royal Bank of Scotland also tells us that employment ticked up in December, but it generally does for seasonal work. Alright, so there you go. On all the main indicators, Scotland's economy is outstripping anywhere else. But there's good reason for that. We've got stuff to sell that people want. Most of it's been sold on our behalf by Westminster or private companies, but we have stuff that people want. Right. So there you go. The economy's faring better. Thanks, Shuggy. Right, what else we got? I guess we better have a wee look at the South Africa and the Israel court case for genocide and ethnic cleansing. Now, I watched a lot of the 2 days and then went back and watched a lot of it again. South Africa's a submission to the court was 83 pages, take away the title page, so 84 pages. And it was detailed. It detailed actions which could be deemed genocidal. It also pointed out that Israel had created living standards in Gaza which were not conducive with life or any form of human rights. And they also pointed out that their politicians have been breaking their own law by inciting genocide. Great example, Netanyahu and his speech about Amalek. Don't know much about this stuff because I'm not a religious man. But anyway, apparently God, way back in the day, commanded the Israelites to wipe out the people of Amalek, including their beasts. There you go. So South Africa's case was very detailed. The following day we had Israel's submission. Israel's submission, it's no genocide, it's self-protection. It's us or them. And that was that. Oh, aye, and the court's no right to have them there. Unbelievable. So that's the defence. The defence is self-defence because of the uprising on October 7th. Remember, that's what it is. They can call it a terrorist attack all they want, and they can call Hamas a terrorist organisation, which they are. But actually, it's just the latest in a long line of uprisings. That's generally what happens when you oppress a people. But to top it all off, on Sunday, on day 100 of the genocide in Palestine, Netanyahu sticks his fingers up at the whole planet, including the International Court of Justice, which hasn't ruled yet, and tells us all that the job will be seen through, and no one will stop them. Now, if that doesn't urge the International Court of Justice to come to a very quick conclusion on sanctions, on a special order to cease and desist. Talking about cease and desist, when I was having my wee rant, I said that the US and the UK were striking Yemen illegally, and that if the UK put boots on the ground, it would be an illegal invasion. And somebody pointed out to me there is a cease and desist order on the Houthis in Yemen to stop striking commerce going back through the Bab el-Mandeb Straits. There is. But there's no UN mandating anybody to attack Yemen. So what the UK and the US are doing isn't sanctioned by anybody. It's just outright thuggery. Now 24,000 dead, never mind the wounded. Last time I looked it was 56,000 wounded, and still it's about 7,000 or 8,000 missing, presumed dead under the rubble. Mental. Thanks very much for that super chat, Margaret. Anyway, so that's Israel's defence. It's us or them, and we acted in self-defence. But it's already been pointed out, the occupying state isn't defending itself, it's occupying Palestine. And there is no doubt about it. The whole world refers to the West Bank and Gaza as occupied territories. We already recognise that there's an apartheid regime. So Israel's self-defence claim is out the window. The them or us thing That's not on. That's not on. I bet you the 2 point whatever million people, well, a bit less than that, whatever 2.1 million people in Gaza, I bet you the majority of them would like peace and a two-state solution. Just because Hamas as an organisation has threatened to eradicate Israel and take them off the map, Hamas hasn't got the capabilities. So this is a mere pig and shit in the wind. The other thing we get told by Netanyahu on Sunday was there's no innocent in Palestine. None. Apparently they're all Hamas. We know that's not true. Hamas forces only measure about 30,000 people. It's the political wing that was supported. And that was only supported because of oppression in Gaza. So, will South Africa win its case? Well, if the 15 judges on that panel were watching their television sets on Sunday to see Netanyahu's speech, don't think there's any doubt about the genocidal intent. None. Hi, Rosie. Well, of course, it'll be 2 weeks before we hear from these judges, unfortunately. And in that 2 weeks, a lot of people are going to die. And then after that judgment's passed down, it would appear that Israel's government, can't blame people, it never is. They just go along the same way we've got the propaganda here, stringing people along, the right-wing press and all that sort of thing. People just go along. Anyway, it would appear that they are intent on wiping everybody in Gaza out. And when they're done with Gaza, they'll turn their eyes to the West Bank. So they will. Hey, hit the like button, folks, please. I left the voter. I Linda. What else we got? 139 watching on YouTube. We've got 197 watching live at the moment through the two outlets. Thanks very much, folks. Great viewing figures. Always up there, around about 200 or just over the 200 mark. So, Netanyahu says he's not stopping. When the International Court comes back with its judgment and puts emergency measures in place, then that puts a legal obligation on every other nation, state on the planet, nation or state on the planet, to stop helping Israel commit genocide. And of course, if the governments of Israel's allies also decide to ignore the International Court and continue to feed them, well, there are domestic laws that the citizens can use to make sure that Westminster stops selling weapons to Israel and stops supplying weapons to Israel. And there are similar laws in the United States. The other thing that's going on is there are ministers for 17 different countries are demanding and are putting forward a case to the International Criminal Court. Now, if you're not aware, the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court are two different things, and they want Netanyahu in the International Criminal Court. And there's also an American who's suing Genocide Joe for his complicity in the genocide. So, interesting times ahead. But Netanyahu says he's not stopping, folks. Quick pop out of Ukraine. Well, I'm afraid we've lost interest in Ukraine. Mr. Sunak, as I said, was there pledging another 2.5 billion quid of our money to his friends in the arms industry to furnish Ukraine with a further 2.5 billion worth of weapons. But it would appear the West is losing interest in Ukraine. The ISIS is taking over. And you're right, Tina. Netanyahu is insane and dangerous. Where else we go last week? Oh, aye. In the middle of all this, believe it or not, the UK throwing the dead cat, and America throwing the dead cat of hitting Houthi rebels who are disrupting commerce in the Red Sea. You know why they're doing that, of course. To take all our minds off of what's going on in The Hague. But anyway, believe it or not, but down that road on Friday, the Public Procurement Bodies Overseas Procurement Bill gets its second reading in the Commons on Friday. Now, we've spoken about this bill before, folks. Now, what this bill does is it allows the UK government to tell public bodies, that's universities, schools, councils, courts, any public body out there, who they can and can't boycott and who they must and must not buy from. Anyway, this bill gets its second reading on Friday, and the speeches against it by some of the Tories themselves. Kit Malthouse, I gave a binding speech on how it was affecting freedom of speech, how it was affecting freedom of expression, and how this was definitely the right time. And it definitely is the right time. Remember, folks, boycott Israeli goods. You boycott Israel, the movement, use your search engine. They've got a clever wee app that you can download onto your phone that allows you to scan goods in the supermarket. And it'll come up with, aye, that's all right, buy that one. Or no, don't buy that one. And it goes much further than the 729 and 871, which you'll see at the end of the barcode. It will actually go as far as finding out which components and other products come from the occupied territories or Israel. And that'll let you make a judgment whether you want to buy it, because it's got ingredients for the occupied territories or Israel. So, public bodies, they've got a wee bit more leeway, because it's believed that now that this bill went back to the House of Lords, that they're going to try and piss about it until after the general election, where hopefully it will disappear up in a puff of smoke. But as I say, pretty tasteless to be presenting that bill at this point in time. Absolutely tasteless. So, boycotting Israel is one of the strongest things we can do, and boycotting companies who support Israel. Don't go to McDonald's, go to Burger King. Ignore Starbucks. Use an alternative local barista. There's plenty of them around. Alright. As I've already said, the UK and the US have thrown another firework into a powder keg, which is the Middle East. And now it's poking. Now the bear's decided to stick its head above the parapet and growl. Putin says he's going to support the Houthis. He's going to send them weapons. Iran seems to have stepped back a wee bit. And the rhetoric, anyway, no their support for the Houthis, just the rhetoric. But after the strike on Thursday night, which, as we all know, was there to distract us from what was happening in the international courts. Because let's face it, there's only, hi Elizabeth, hope you're enjoying yourself. As you know, there's only a certain amount of us anarchists are absolutely aware of what's going on. Your average Joe on the street apparently will take whatever it says in the news. And as we know, the news is Israel bias. A bit like the news is state bias, the BBC, the propaganda machine. Right? But this is really dangerous, folks. It's really dangerous. And this could be the thing that lets Trump back in if he's allowed to stand. What's interesting is at this point in time, I have never seen so many governments worldwide out of sync with their populations. I haven't seen it as bad as this anywhere. But worldwide, we have a movement demanding that Israel cease and desist. And worldwide, we've got major governments ignoring the wishes of their people. They're either not reading the room or refusing to read the room. Simple as that. And here in the UK, of course, we know they're refusing to read the room. Because it turns out the Israeli lobby in UK politics is much stronger than any of us were aware of before. I guess the Jeremy Corbyn smear campaign opened a tin of worms for us all to stare in and discover that half our politicians are owned by Israel. They see the patches in their jackets. Apparently there's it's called at polling stations in America, then, isn't it? They know the vote's on. I know it's coming though. Now where else we go? Latest YouGov poll says SNP to lose 20 seats and Scots Labour to Labour and Tory. That's the latest YouGov poll. The latest Ipsos Mori poll and opinion polls have the SNP on between 37 and 43 seats with a 10-point lead over Labour. Funny how YouGov's always an outlier, isn't it? And Rutan and Whitfield or whatever the hell they're called are always outliers and all. Aye, Stephen. I can believe that BA has made 20 billion through Ukraine and what's happening in Israel now. They say, folks, I really do mean this. Not only boycott Israel, put it into your search engine, or take you to their official website, and some clever young boffins out there at Boycott Israel have come up with a app that you download and you just scan barcodes, no matter what the goods are, and it'll tell you if any of the materials in that particular object or foodstuff came from Israel. Boycotting Israel can be done. Now on this polling carry on, I've seen some right nonsense polls lately. There's one in the Telegraph today for an organisation that nobody's ever heard about. You know, the only ever mention of this organisation was pointed out by James O'Brien has been in the Telegraph today. Anyway, apparently they ran a poll saying that the Tories will be wiped out and only left with 120 seats. That means that definitely Labour don't need a seat in Scotland to get the majority. But MC, it was on, I don't watch television, I wouldn't have seen it, mate. I don't watch television, so I wouldn't have seen it. But I see some of the polling nonsense we've been seeing. Let you understand a wee bit about the polling, right? Now, how they weight polls tends to be against the previous election at the same time. And it's how they're weighting independence polls as well. They're still weighting them against the demographic of 2014 and voting intentions in 2014. And they're still doing this all the time. Instead of taking and extrapolating the information that we have now in the new demographics and voting intentions are new, they still weight against previous elections. Pretty archaic and stupid, actually. There you go. That's how it is. Now, as I've been saying, so it's time to get back to my high horse and my soapbox. Listen, folks, although the BBC have been telling us the game's a bogey, because that's what they're paid to do, but they've got a big voice and they're trying to convince our friends, our families, and our neighbours that it's never going to happen. Aye, it is. I keep saying this, democracy will out. The will of the people will out. I can assure you, the will of the people will out. It always does. But actually, Westminster is making it very easy for us. Because right now, England is a tinderbox. An absolute tinderbox. And every scandal that comes to light, it comes to light that it's made the people poorer. And we're talking about people who are already struggling. Some of the regions in the northeast have got the highest poverty figures in Europe, in fact in the Western world. In Teesside, 38% of the children grew up in poverty. 38%. I say it's a tinderbox down there right now. And of course, at this point in time, as I've pointed out, Western governments are so far out of sync with their populations on the situation in the Middle East that actually there's a great chance of governments being overthrown everywhere. There's a good few nations out there looking at it and saying, let's rip it up and start again. Now, I was in All Shots feed last night and there was a guy there called the Galaxy for 2044 or something like that. And he kept telling us that now we can't have it. And that we're too wee, we're too poor and too stupid. I suppose some of these people doing that would still believe. And then he was throwing in stupid statements and I was having to contradict them. And Mark Wilkie says to me, Davey, I'll leave this one to you. You're much more knowledgeable on this stuff after correcting on some information that he'd put out, this guy put out. And I said, nah, I've not got the patience for it. Hey, class action. Yes, you're right. Westminster did do the same thing in 1918 with the Irish, and they are doing it with us in 2023. It's true, but democracy will out. And here we go. Hi, Davey. Sorry I've not been on for a couple of months. My father, I'm sorry to hear that. I really am, Daniel. Welcome back. Good. Nice to have you back. Right, let's talk what else we got. Nathan, you're absolutely correct. I'll put this one up for you. That's why I was pissed myself laughing. I was a bit disappointed with Stephen Flynn's response to this nutter telling us just to pack up the game's a bogey. I thought Stephen Flynn's defence was weak. But you are right. The Supreme Court did rule there's power at the ballot box. That's why I said democracy vote and all the people out. But even, no matter what the Supreme Court said, it gets to the point where it's just going to have to be. Actually, this is an international treaty, and we can't be held against our will. But we've ticked all the boxes. The international community now recognises it, and I can assure you there'll be third-party partners out there in the wings waiting to take this one to the General Assembly of the United Nations on our behalf. I would also like to correct something that Gordon Ross was punting the other day there, and that is the idea that the Vienna Conventions is the way for Scotland to get out of the Treaty of Union. The Vienna Conventions will be there to be called on, and the Vienna Accords activated after there's been a decision at the ballot box. There is no way to effectively get that organisation to come and mediate a divorce until the people have spoken. So this idea that Gordon had, that we can just invoke the Vienna Convention and have them come and annul the treaty, is rubbish. This is a 21st century democracy. People have to stop looking for fucking shortcuts. There isn't any. The only way out is via democracy, and it can't be denied forever. Right? Keep your eyes on the prize. Put your partisan politics in your pocket. Have a look at what the biggest vehicle is to get us to the point we want to get to, and pick your tick or your cross in the box. At this particular time, even though the turmoil, including apparently Holmes' Yusuf's brother-in-law, has just been nicked for drugs, what's that going to do with the First Minister? But anyway, it's a story. It's an SNP bad story. But, as I say, keep your eyes on the prize. And there is only one prize, and that is to fill that bloody parliament down that road with as many SNP MPs as possible. And if the polls are to be believed when it comes to the question of Scottish independence, and the latest polls, which have been weighted properly against the demographic of today and voting intentions of today, then 54% of the voting age public in Scotland would like to end this union. Well, the only cast iron way to put enough pressure on is to make sure we don't send a Lib Dem, a Tory, or a Red Tory to Scotland down that road. Now, it's been speculated by George Osborne that this particular election will be in November. I'm not quite sure, because, or maybe because I don't see them wanting to call an election after they take a tanking and the local elections down there, which some of them are going ahead at the same time as the general election. And the Tories are going to get thumped in the local elections. Sorry, which are set to go ahead in May, what am I saying? So seeing the general election in November, that's highly possible. Another reason for having a winter election is less people turn out to vote, and that's in the Tories' favour. All right. As I say, this is an election year. It's time for the nonsense to stop. It's time to put your partisan politics in your pockets and keep your eyes on the prize. And there is only one prize, and that's filling that House of Thieves and carpetbaggers full of SNP MPs. That's the only way to stop any argument. Okie dokie. Right, folks. As you know, I always struggle on my own these days. Because, let's face it, the other Davy and I did an hour show, and the Indie Truck Davy show was only 45. But by the time I finish this post-broadcast amble, and thank yous all for your for viewing, thank yous all for your contributions. Ask yous all to hit the like button on YouTube and share across your social media platforms if you find what it is David and I do interesting and informative. The only reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, when I'm doing Indie Truck Davy, I don't promote my videos. I don't. But this is the two Davies a day. So, if you find what it is that we do interesting, share across your social media platforms, please. Right, okay. Now, thanks very much, as I say, for tuning in. Here in Scotland, eyes on the prize. Down in England, Get your pitchforks and your torches out. March on that house of thieves and carpetbaggers and tough that lot into the fucking Thames. Alright. We'll be back Thursday day all again. Hopefully the other Davies will be feeling up to it. Hey. Don't pay your TV license and boycott is really good. Have a nice day.